Manufacturing Matters is an MFG Radio Network production brought to you by GIE Media's Manufacturing Group as industry experts take deep dives into the latest manufacturing matters, whether it's new innovations, products, technologies, and emerging markets that help you understand better why manufacturing matters to you and also to the top companies in the medical, aerospace, defense, and electric vehicle manufacturing industries. Hello and welcome to the latest roundtable discussion from GIE Media's Manufacturing Group, Leaders in Manufacturing. I'm Jake Kaufman, the managing editor for GIE Media's Manufacturing Group of magazines, and we would like to thank our sponsors on the panel today, as we'll be joined by representatives from Okuma America, the U.S.-based sales and service affiliate of Okuma Corporation, a world leader in CNC machine tools, controls, and automation systems. We'll also have ISCAR, a full solution provider of metal cutting tool products and accessories for CNC machining. Big Daishawa, a member of the Big Daishawa Group in Osaka, Japan, and a recognized global tooling provider with manufacturing facilities in North America, Switzerland, and Japan. And SMW Autoblock, manufacturer of work holding systems for turning, grinding, and milling machine tools. And we'll get to know the panel a little bit better as we will be joined in just a moment by Jim King, the CEO and COO of Okuma America, Larry Wilfong, the Executive Vice President of Sales for ISCAR, Michael Herman, the Vice President of Sales for Big Daishawa, and also Larry Robbins, the CEO and President of SMW Autoblock USA. Without further ado, let's get to talking with these leaders in manufacturing. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jake.
Okay, so Jim, we will start with you as I ask the first question. We're obviously talking about leaders in manufacturing, so let's kind of talk about the journey that led to manufacturing as far as your life goes. What made you get into the industry?
You know, I'm going to say as a young man, my father was a partner in a design company in Detroit. So that was back in the days where everything was hydraulic, welding arms that would come in the old days. Now it's robots, but you'd see these arms come in and weld the body of an automobile. So growing up in the automotive industry and seeing how cars were put together, and for those that may know what an old blueprint machine was, and the ammonia that would come out of those, so all the boys had to run the blueprint machine on the weekends for my dad as he and his friends designed these machines. So, and then get to see that those drawings turn into actual machines that were actually building the bodies, and being able as a young man to go see them get installed was absolutely, that set the hook long term of how things are made, how they're designed. I was hooked. It just I never walked away from it. But I'm aging myself when I talk about blueprint machines, but it's how things were designed and built. And that's how basically the passion started, at least for me, was seeing how things were made and seeing it come to a complete body of a vehicle.
Okay, so then Larry Wilfong over there at ISCAR, what was your journey into manufacturing like? Was it something similar to Jim's?
It was kind of similar as far as the passion is concerned. I've always had a natural talent of being able to fix things, and I started working on cars and trucks at a very early age. And what I found out is going into manufacturing, it gave me the opportunity not only to fix things, but also to build things. So the building portion of it, again, I was hooked on that part of it. Still very mechanical and still would like to work on cars, but the passion is definitely in manufacturing.
Okay, thank you, Larry. So then what led Michael Herman into manufacturing over at Big Daishawa?
Well, I'll say one thing. It wasn't a push from my father. My father was a tool and die maker at Victor Dana Corporation. And I think you have to put it in perspective, in the late 40s going through a journeymanship, manufacturing was dirty, and it wasn't, people were not paid that well. So my father always wanted me to get into business. So when I went to school, I had to pay for my own college, and I subsidized, paying for college by working in a machine shop. And I was given opportunities in a machine shop to get into an apprenticeship program and subsequently, get into an aerospace program and run my own department. So what I liked about it was obviously the aspect of hands-on. Going through college and working on a business degree in accounting, and then being able to work night shift and work in manufacturing where you're actually, processing parts, programming, setting up machines, and you're working on parts for the military and aerospace. It was pretty satisfying for me to do that. And from that point, I'm going to say that I've been actually very fortunate in my career to be associated with companies that sent me to school directly at Fanuc or Siemens or in Japan to Star Microtronics or to Germany to Index Corporation to learn the trade and to work with experts in the field. So the career for me has been extremely satisfying where I came from, in my career moving up. And it- but again, it was something that my father never wanted me to get into. Um,
Yeah. So then we'll wrap things up with Larry Robbins at SMW. What was your journey into manufacturing like, Larry?
It's funny. I'm one of three kids in a family, and my brother and sister used to make a joke. My father owned a machine tool distributorship, and they also made special tooling and special machines for people locally in New Jersey. And my brother and sister used to say my dad hated me because I was the only one he brought into that business. And my mom's 90th birthday, she said, I think it's the contrary. I think he liked him more than he liked you guys. He never invited you in. I started very young, loving what my dad did. I remember probably my earliest memory. I was 8 or 9 years old. Long before CNC, Sloson controls to do paper tape, to type. It was a type. Sloson was a typewriter, but it made paper tape. And I can remember I came into his office one day. I said, "Where can I run this to see if it works?" He goes, "What are you talking about?" I said, "I think I did a program." He goes, "I have guys that have been doing this for years that don't know how to use the machine yet." I said, "Read the manual. It's really simple." And sure enough, I drilled a hole, I tapped the hole, I milled a pipe, and he was like, "How do you even know this?" I go, "I don't know. I just watched." And from that point on, I got sucked in. I mean, I went to college to be an engineer, realized that it was much too social to be in an engineering department. And I wouldn't do anything else. I've always loved what I do. I've always said if I could have chosen early on what I did, which I did, I would have chosen this, and I would never look back. I really enjoy this industry. It's afforded me houses and kids going to college, and everything in my life is as a result of being involved in this industry.
Awesome. Thank you, Larry. So we'll go back to Larry Wilfong at ISCAR as I ask, where have you seen the biggest change since you started in the manufacturing industry?
Well, I think the technology, I think that's the biggest thing that I've seen. I remember in sales handing out VHS tapes, to explain how our cut grip system worked, our turn groove, or different things like that. And I think what I've seen is that the technology has changed and the access to that new technology in real time. And I tell my guys you're spoiled because you don't have the VHS tape anymore. You don't need a catalog. You need your iPhone, right? So I think that the biggest change I've seen really is in the technology side and the access in real time to that information, so you can make informed decisions, and that's changed dramatically over the years.
Awesome. Thank you, Larry. So we'll go to Michael Herman at Big Shawa. Where have you seen the biggest change since you first started in the manufacturing industry?
Well, I'm going to look at a couple different aspects. I think that on the cutting tool side, we've gone from very simple coatings to, very I don't want to say complicated, but advanced coatings to give better tool life to everybody. But what I've thought about is it's been in the multi-axis machines, 5-axis, and up. The adoption of automation and digitation, in the manufacturing field. If we look at, you mentioned a tape program. I used to run tape programs also. And then it was manual G code program that we'd write our own subroutines to. And then it advanced into CAD/CAM systems where you could just draw the part and the code would be generated for you. So, I mean, there's been so many, different shifts in manual processes, I mean, with integration of robots, that improved efficiency, accuracy, and production speeds, bringing down the cost. And all of these all of these things that have been developed, it created new opportunities for a lot of new people coming into the business. So it's there's advances in their skills in all technologies, and machine builders have advanced with different spindles or horsepower or speed, and then cutting tool people have to catch up to that. And we have with different advanced coatings. So it's been an interesting ride, but we're not through this journey yet. There's going to be a lot more advances.
Thank you, Michael. So we'll go back to Larry Robbins at SMW. What's the biggest change that you have seen so far in the manufacturing industry since you started?
I mean, let's face it, the resounding answer you're going to get is technology and automation. If somebody had told me 20 years ago we'd be selling anything but chucks, I would have laughed and said, you're out of your mind. I think that you're starting to see the next generation is starting to have an impact on what we're doing now. They're seeing that automating processes and digitizing processes is much more effective, and you can create repeatable, predictable manufacturing solutions by using the technology that's available.
Awesome. Thank you, Larry. So we'll wrap things up in this round with Jim King over at Okuma. So where has that biggest change been for you as far as the industry since you first started?
I'll start just to age myself. When I first started in this business, a PLC was and OR gates that were hand wired. So rather than a PLC or a CNC, everything was hardwired. And I think guys that are in our age have been able to see a wide range of technology advancements from real and OR gates, analog hydraulics to servo-driven actuators. We've seen this movement in speed of manufacturing has really just grown by leaps and bounds with the technology, the solid state capabilities of controls, measuring devices, and the ability to design and build something very quickly. And speed of manufacturing has increased because of that technology. And I look at AI today and look to what's going to be in the future and how that's going to impact and increase speed to market is really going to be kind of interesting. And I'll take one other twist that is not technology, but really on the human side. If you look back in manufacturing, the command and control of a manufacturing plant, you were a cog in the wheel. You were an individual with a number, and you had a job to do. And the foreman would come down. When I worked in GM plants, and it was the foreman was the drove everything you did, and you didn't have an opinion. And I look to manufacturing today. And what I see in manufacturing is this movement of all of these new gens that have come out, and it adapt to the new working environment that COVID cost us or afforded us through this type of technology. And I think using the youth of our nation into manufacturing today with their knowledge of technology and their adaptation to technology. I think there's a new age of what's going to happen with these new generations that are coming online that don't have all of the knowledge that we have, but they know how to get it a hell of a lot faster than I do. And it's kind of fun to watch that evolution too in manufacturing, where we're actually modernizing the people that we work with.
So thank you, Jim. So for the next round of questions, we'll go to Michael at Big Daishawa. As we were obviously talking about the changes that you've seen in the industry, what is a change that you have helped lead at your company?
Wow. Um, First of all, I don't think that it's an individual change that one person makes. It's a team that has to support that change. So that team comes from, it might start with sales, but then you carry it over to, an idea with manufacturing or with marketing, and then it has to be brought into inside sales. So it's a lot of different parts of a puzzle that you're actually putting together to affect change or to affect an improvement. And I think the improvements would be obviously in digital so that we can actually monitor in real-time sales and we can pivot very quickly on, product that is more actively selling over another. So we have real-time data that we can look at that we didn't have years before, and we can make decisions for future forecasting, which help improve productivity or manufacturing processes in Japan to get the current product. So again, it starts with an idea from one person, and it might evolve quite a bit differently, but it would have never have started without that one person, coming to the table.
Thank you, Michael. So then Larry Robbins at SMW, the same question to you. What is the biggest change that I guess I should say have you helped lead at your company?
Bringing in a new generation of worker. We have an inherent problem in this industry. In our company, I'll give you a perfect example. In our company, 28% of the people are over 60 years old, including me. By the end of next year, we hope to cut that in half. We're duplicating efforts. We're bringing people in before people retire to have them trained by the person who had the job before. But along with that, we're giving people the ability to make their own decisions. This industry, for many years, being the president of the company, I remember the first day I became president, somebody walked in my office and said, "What are your expectations?" I was like, "What? My expectations are you show up every day, do your job, and go home at night." And they said, "Well, no, and I said, that'll happen as it happens. That'll transpire with the way times change. And that's the problem is, again, we're in an industry that is constantly evolving and improving. So you just have to be on the cutting edge of information and technology. We're never going to be the first one to change something in our market. I think as long as we take advantage of the educational opportunities we have within associations and things like this, we have the ability to get ideas and gather ideas from other people and implement them in our own things. And that's what I've tried to do through my career.
Awesome. Thank you, Larry. So we'll go to Jim King at Akuma with the same question. What is the biggest change that you have helped lead at your company?
When I came to Akuma, we had a mission statement that dealt with quadratic equations, and no one in the world could ever have ever stated it. So probably the biggest thing that I did tried to get the organization, not me specifically, but my team, was really create a mission statement along with vision and values that the organization could rally around. We went through a process of asking our customers, our distributors, our employees, several questions about how we behaved in the marketplace and internally. And we developed this mission statement of we passionately pursue a customer for life. And out of that, the values that spin off that, and we celebrate our values on a monthly basis, on a daily basis within the organization. And it's amazing when the whole organization lifts up to that mode of operation, that a vision, mission, and value really means something, and it bleeds itself off into how our customers perceive us, and organizationally that also helps us attract the next generation of employees, because if we live that mission, vision, and value, and they see it, we're able to attract a whole nother next generation of employees. So probably the biggest impact to the company has been able to establish that as a foundation of who we are as a company, as individuals.
Awesome. Thank you there, Jim. And then I guess Larry at Iskar will wrap up this round. So, what is the biggest change that you have helped lead at your company since you started manufacturing?
Yeah, when I started, all of the ISCAR sales organization would fit in one small conference room. We were a very we were a very small company, and with the small company, you have people going in a lot of different directions, and it works, okay, because you can throw a lot of mud at the wall, and it ends up sticking. So I think that what I helped bring, and really again working with the whole team at the company, is I helped bring structured programs and develop the sales resources that we needed to go from small company mentality to a large company with a very large sales force today, and to help develop those sales resources, with product management and things like that to get those things in place. Also supported systems technologies as well, because you have to have those tools in your toolbox to do any job. So with the sales side of it, you have to have the technology and you have to have the systems in place. And also, one of the things that we continue to work on, and it's continuous improvement, is improving those relationships. And when I mean improving relationships, I mean overall within our company, with our channels, with, the customers, with other suppliers, because we're all in this industry, and we all see each other at all the events and everything. So, working to improve that relationship and to make sure that we're looking at things that we can say will improve the sales process overall.
Thank you, Larry. At ISCAR, we go back to Larry at SMW for the next round of questions. And when I wrote this, I said, what is the best advice you received early in your career? But I think we can just say at any point in your career, because I don't think you're ever too old to get advice or too experienced to get advice. So, what's the best advice that you have received during your career?
Always tell the truth, because generally the person you're talking to already knows the answer to the question. And if you shoot him a line of BS, you're going to be out the door. I tell every new salesman here, if there's no shame in saying, I don't know, but I'll get back to you, but make sure you follow through.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Larry. So we'll go to Jim King with the same question over at Akuma. What is the best advice that you have received in your career?
First, seek to be understood. And then be inquisitive, and not talk. I mean, the probably the best advice that's ever been given to me is speak less, listen more, try to understand, and especially for those of us that deal with foreign parents or people from different walks of life, diverse customer base. A lot of times what they're telling you isn't really what they're asking. And so trying truly, the best advice is, listen, ask questions, be inquisitive, try to understand what the person's telling you before you formulate an opinion or offer up some suggestions. And that's probably the best advice I've ever gotten is, you're not the smartest guy in the room. Shut up and listen, and you might learn something. And so that's really been early. Luckily, I got that early in my career, so I didn't have to make too many mistakes later on in my career. So that's really been the big thing for me.
Okay, thank you, Jim. So we'll go to Larry at ISCAR with the same question. What is the best advice that you have received in your career?
Well, if I would have started down the same path, I would be an auto mechanic today. And and I had a counselor tell me, I can take a mechanic and can I make a machinist out of him? Probably not, but I can take a machinist and probably make a mechanic out of him. So if you have the ability to fix things, good. If you have the ability to build things, you can probably fix things. And, kind of set me on that path to say, this is something I really like. And, I come from a coal mining community. That's, nothing wrong with that. People make a good living at it. but it's something I did not want to do. That was not for me. Okay. Going deep in the ground just wasn't. So, to actually get into a career where I could build things, use my hands, and then use that knowledge to actually do what I do today is fantastic. The other thing he told me was find something you love and stick with it. And if you don't love it, leave it. If you don't love what you do, you owe it to yourself, you owe it to your company to go do something different.
Thank you, Larry. And then we'll wrap up with Michael Herman at Big Daishawa. What is the best advice that you have received in your career?
Never stop learning, stay curious, and be patient.
I like it. Short and sweet.
Short
To the
and
point.
sweet.
Yes. So then the same line, or sorry, not the same. Next line of question, we'll go to Jim King at Akuma. As I ask you, obviously that was the best advice that you've received. What would be the advice then that you would send out to someone who is starting out in manufacturing?
The comment about the best advice I was given, be inquisitive. I think there are so many different facets of manufacturing. There's so many different avenues people can follow, from finance to engineering to working anywhere on the floor to make things. So my advice to people that are looking at manufacturing is be inquisitive, try many things, try things that you might be interested in. Michael's position, find something you love, because then it won't be a job, it'll be a career. But my feeling is you just got to try things and be open to manufacturing, because we do manufacturing days here and we show them every aspect of our business, from HR to finance to engineering to applications to service, our warehouse. We show all these high school kids every aspect of our business, and it's not just sitting on the floor running a machine on an assembly line.
Mm-hmm. So thank you, Jim. So we'll go to Larry at ISCAR with the same question. Obviously, you've talked about the best advice that you received. What would be the advice you would send out to someone starting off in manufacturing?
Well, kind of echoing what Jim said, there is a lot of opportunity that in this business. There are different facets. There's a lot of opportunity for someone that's driven to really advance in companies, especially today with the shortage in the people that we have in our business. There is a great opportunity to advance. And it doesn't matter what your skill level is, even, operators, programmers, accounting, the whole thing. Okay. And this industry is not your dad's industry. Okay. This is not, turning cranks and be getting dirty. This is a highly technical field, and there is a great chance for someone to make a great career and a great life out of this business.
Perfect. Thank you, Larry. So then Michael at Big Daishawa, the same question I asked to you would be, obviously you have the best advice you've received. What would you then send out to someone else who is starting off in the industry?
To be patient, to focus on building solid relationships and a solid foundation in whatever field. I started out in machinery rebuilding, in service. From there, I went to programming. From there, I went to applications. So, that helped me with my career. And it's all pieces of a puzzle that you can look back at and say, that's what made you today. So again, be patient. I think the generation, they want to come on board and they want to see results orientated right away, and they want to have successes right away. The successes will come, okay? But you do have to put in your time and get a good understanding and a foundation of, of the machines, of the mechanics, of different cutting materials. There are so many opportunities within manufacturing for people to learn and people to thrive in. Um, you just have to be persistent and ask a lot of questions. Okay. And again, if there's something that you don't like, you can pivot. Okay. There's different directions you can go into in manufacturing, in machinery. Um, you can pivot, but I think that you have to take it a slow and steady course.
Well, thank you, Michael. So we'll wrap up with Larry Robbins at SMW. Obviously, once again, the advice that you've received, we've heard, but what would you then tell someone else who is starting off in the industry?
I'm going to echo what everyone else said, but in the end, I tell people, love what you do because you're going to be doing it for a long time. And if you don't love it, let us know. We'll find something either within this company or outside of the organization if you're not happy here. I've helped people start other companies. I've helped people find jobs with competitors. We're a small industry, and we're an industry that touches everything that's made that you deal with on a daily basis, whether it be automobiles, household appliances. And the other thing I tell people all the time is listen, because if you listen to every opinion and every view, you can make a much better informed decision if you have all angles. You might not agree with it, but you'll get that perspective also, and it makes your decision a much better rounded decision.
Thank you, Larry. So we'll go to Larry at ISCAR with our next round of questions. As I ask, how have you personally tried to connect with this next generation of manufacturers?
Well, I think really the best way, in my opinion, is to realize that things evolve. Okay. You can't be stagnant. You can't ever just say, I've reached the level of knowledge that I know today, and that's where I'm going to be. So if you realize that things evolve, you also work to reinvent yourself so that you can evolve with those things. And I think I've done a good job at making sure I stay up with the technology and to be able to connect with people on that level.
Thank you, Larry. So we'll go to Michael Herman at Big Daishawa with the same question. How have you personally connected or tried to connect with this next generation of manufacturers?
Well, I think that a big part of it is taking a risk on somebody. Okay. If they have a solid background, maybe a good work ethic, we can take a risk on people and we can learn from both sides, how to work with them. They can learn how to work with us. So I think that, a willingness to learn on their end could open the door, on our end. Mentoring is very important. Hosting events, supporting education programs, is extremely important to foster interest within this business. You know, I see a lot of people coming into the business and they want to stand in the office, program, push a button, and then leave. There's a different group of people that want to get involved with and understand the metals that they're cutting, how a chip forms. So they have a good willingness to kind of put forth, but it comes with time and it comes with patience. And I think that on this panel here, there's a lot of resources. And, people have to learn, the new generation coming up has to learn to ask questions. We have a lot of knowledge that can be passed on if they ask questions. Okay. Um, so I think that, by supporting, by having collaborations with different companies, and it's across the board. I mean, I've learned so much from the millennials, how to work with them. That was a challenge. Now it's a better understanding of how to move forward together. So yeah, I think that it has a lot to do with mentoring and cross training and taking one under one's wing.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Michael. So then Larry Robbins at SMW, the same question. How have you personally tried to connect with this next generation of manufacturers?
Michael hit the nail on the head. If you don't invest in your future in education, the next generation wants to have opportunity. Again, Alan Bolio from ITR Economics said it the best. You want to hire millennials? Hire a millennial or hire millennials because they know what they want, they know what they expect, and they're all on the same plane. For me, I was told if it was anything else, it would be called fun because you're coming to work to do a job. So, we have to be much more aware that this next generation wants to have access to social media. They want to have work-life balance. Again, I was told work-life balance is if you work, your life will be balanced. You just have to have the ability to transfer your information that you've learned over your entire career to these people and let them develop their own styles and their own ideas. I think the biggest problem that most of our companies have had over the years is you try to import what you think is the most successful management system on your new people. I think unless people put their own thumbprint on something, it's just the same old thing over and over again. And as we know, if you don't learn from history, guess what? History passes you by and you're not there anymore. So I think that they need to realize that their input is just as valuable as mine. They just have to have the ability to have the patience to wait because it doesn't happen overnight. You know, you don't come into a company and become president right away. You earn your way to the top. So I just think if they're willing to invest time, you should be willing to invest time in them.
Thank you, Larry. So we'll go to Jim King at Okuma with the same question to wrap things up in this round.
Yep.
How have you personally tried to connect with that next generation of manufacturers?
Well, we do a lot of different things. One is, you know, the manufacturing day, connecting with, we're really blessed here in the Carolinas to have a strong high school technical VOTEC programs. So we're able to reach into the VOTEC high school programs and have them come in, tour the facility, see the different types of jobs. We're connected to two colleges here in the Carolinas that we're connecting with them to offer them machines and that type of things for their shops to make sure that the local people are connecting with the machines, the technology. And then through intern programs, every aspect of our business gets to have at least one, if not two, interns. So we're going to the colleges, and last year I think we had 24 interns in our facility. They have to, at the end of their internship, they have to give a presentation on what they learned, their projects, and critique the organization on the things that we could improve in the vision of a millennial or or Gen Z. It's always great to see their perspective on our industry. So we're really, and we've hired in the last 10 years, I think 4 of the interns have been hires in engineering and in that type of thing. So making sure that you have community outreach in whatever form that takes and what's available to the marketplace. I know a lot of the people in manufacturers are connected with their local VOTEC schools or university and colleges, but that's really the pipeline for us, because out of that comes we have not only interns but programs to bring people in as I'm losing the term, not interns but apprentices. Thank you, Larry.
No problem.
Always there to help me, buddy.
Thank you.
But you know, we bring in every year. We have 10 apprentices, and they're all under the age of 25 typically, and so those are the things that we do, trying to make sure that we get access and connection.
So thank you, Jim. So before we go to our last round of questions, it does look like there are a few from the audience. Looking like Kim wants to know kind of what you guys see as the women's role in manufacturing, and how have the jobs and the roles and things like that they have on the shop floor, how have those changed since you started? If anyone wants to take the lead on this one, and then we can kind of go around the horn if you want.
Yeah, I can tell you from a company perspective, we have in our international facilities, we have a lot of women in manufacturing. We have a lot of women in engineering. We've started to adopt the same here. We have women in engineering, women in sales, women in product management. It's the next generation. You know, it was an overlooked segment of the workplace for so many years. And, you know, when I was a kid, my mom stayed home and took care of us. The world has changed. You know, it's changed for the better, in my opinion. You know, having daughters, it's nice to see women having the same opportunities now as men have. And I have to be honest, it's nice to have that viewpoint brought into the workplace, because women ultimately think different than men. You know, I could come up with some crude jokes to substantiate it, but I will not. And you have to be willing to give someone a chance to show their worth and their, wherewithal to be in an industry that is typically male dominant. So.
Thank you, Larry. Yeah, is anyone else on the panel want to kind of discuss how you've seen the women's role change in manufacturing?
I'll explain a little bit. I've seen the role when I started my career. Typically, women were in, I'm going to say operators. They were deburrers, okay? And I've seen that change to, them being setup people on lines. So instead of being in the office, on the floor. Most recently, I've seen a lot of women progress into programming and machine setup. And it's been extremely, satisfying to see, different women of different nationalities get into manufacturing and be able to program because everybody can do it. But I think that is there an interest, okay? And the ones that I've seen have really taken an interest and they're very, very good at what they do, okay? Um, so again, I mean, I see that advancing. You have to put yourself out there, take a risk. But manufacturers also have to take that risk on that individual. And I think they'll prove that they can do the job as well as, if not better.
Yeah, and I'll tell you that our company back in Japan has a focus on how do we get a stronger presence of women in manufacturing. And so there's initiatives within our own organization. I think one of the best things that's happened to our industry is women in manufacturing. That association, that connection. I've listened into the online, and there's some unbelievable talent that I wish I could steal from other companies, because I agree with you, Michael. There is some amazing talent that's out there. And I think through those associations and through the focus of corporations wanting to attract women to our industry, because it is a male-dominated industry, it always has been. And I think it's incumbent on us to put the right story to attract, because I think part of it is just getting people to attract. And so not only is anybody, it's men and women can we attract to this industry. I think there's great opportunities for women in our industry.
Yeah, if I can add to that too, and I'll probably get myself in trouble, that I've seen women in our industry do a much better job than the men. So
I agree.
they have the drive, they have the structure, they have things in place where, I believe that not just as good a job. And guys, sorry,
Yeah.
but I believe that they, in many many cases, are better.
But
So
Larry, I agree completely with you on that, but it's been too few in the industry.
agreed.
Amen.
I have seen some women salespeople on the cutting tool side that are second to none. They can hold their own against any of the best people out there. But there's too few of them because I think that they are maybe concerned about getting into the business or advancing in the business. I have worked with, women engineers over at Deere and over at Caterpillar, and they are direct, but they want to be very specific because they're always kept on guard with their peers. So as long as you answer truthfully, honestly, they will support you and they'll work with you on it. But there are a lot of women that are extremely talented in the industry, and we need more of them.
So it looks like Brandon has a question about what is one characteristic that has driven each of your careers to become one of the faces of manufacturing. Larry at SMW, if you wanted to start, and then we can kind of go around the horn.
I think integrity. Walk the walk, talk the talk. Don't present yourself as anything you aren't, because Jim hit the nail on the head before. If you sit and listen long enough, someone will tell you what they want, how much they're willing to pay for it, and when they need it. It's the biggest failure of most sales guys is to have the ability to control themselves, and then at the same time have the integrity to say, hey, listen, we're not the company you should deal with. Here's a company that'll do a much better job. I can't tell you the look I see on people's faces when I recommend a competitor, and they're like, why would you do that? I was like, because I want you to come back to me again. I can sell anything that anybody wants. I want to sell to you over and over and over again. And I think the only way to do that is to maintain your integrity. So
Thank you, Larry. So we'll go to the other Larry at ISCAR. What is a characteristic that has driven your career?
I think, kind of echoing what Larry said, uh, I think you have to be smart enough to understand your box, okay? And sometimes it can lead to great opportunities. You can say no to a customer if he has an unrealistic quote or he has unrealistic expectations. If you say yes and fail, you may not get another chance. But if you say no and you are truthful with that customer, he will come back time after time. I've seen it many, many times and millions of dollars worth of business that came because of that, of just saying no. But know your space. And the other thing is that I've always really been willing to work harder than anyone else. Okay.
Go.
So if you look at where I am, I've taken on whatever challenge the company put before me, and I was able to work harder than anyone else, or I was willing to. I'm not going to say that I worked harder than anyone else, but I was always willing to take that approach where if it's a customer, whatever hours you need to spend in order to satisfy that need and to get back with them in a timely fashion, spend the hours. You have to put in the work. You have to put in the work. And I think that having that characteristic is very, very important, or it has been to me.
Thank you, Larry. So we'll go to Michael Herman at Big Dash Owl. What is a characteristic that has driven your career?
I'm going to say it's twofold on my part. Early on in my career, it was, the ability, it was the knowledge, it was, the process, it was working with customers, because as an applications person, as a salesperson, we were able to develop a process for the customer to get him running in a shorter period of time and make him money. Okay.
Mhm.
And I think that whole process, learning cutting tools, learning speeds and feeds, learning the different materials, and now it's kind of pivoted over that I would like to, you know, transition some of my knowledge over to a younger generation. Okay. So now I have more of a hunger to tell that story, to get them involved in it, because the direction that manufacturing is going, we need some young people coming in. Okay. Um, a lot of times the compensation isn't what they want coming out of a 4-year college, but it's going to be there in the long haul. Okay. And the job satisfaction with learning how to process, learning how to work with customers, and then at another stage in your career, transitioning that information over to somebody else for a next generation. That's really important to me.
Thank you, Michael. So then we'll go to Jim King at Akuma to wrap up this one. What is one characteristic that has driven your career?
Being intentional. I mean, is starting out early in my career. I had a great mentor that taught me about being intentional in everything I did. And part of being intentional is finding my passion. And I, as I coach people coming into the business, or even people that are tangential to the business, is find that passion, and then just don't be willy-nilly about that passion. Be intentional, make a plan, and be willing to Michael's point, is be willing to take some side roads, understanding what your end zone is and the intentionality of that, and knowing that I got to take a side road to get some education to get back to where I really want to be. So my whole, since the point I graduated from college, was I wanted to be the president of a company. I wanted to impact the lives of people, but it took me 20 some years to learn and how to do that. But always the goal was in mind, and the passion to be influential on people was always the intention. And so that when I look at that, that's what brings me joy long term is that I have a passion for what I do. And every day I try to get up and be intentional in what and in the things that I do.
Thank you, Jim. So we do have time for one last round of questions. So the final question that I have to ask, I will start with Michael Herman at Big Daishawa. What is the next hurdle that you believe we have to clear in the manufacturing industry?
Bridging the skill gap between the skill and the knowledge gap between senior people that are going to be retiring out and new people coming into the industry. I think that is just so important at this point. And we have to get on board with that, or we're going to lose our edge in manufacturing.
Thank you, Michael. So we go to Larry Robbins at SMW with the same question. What is the next hurdle that you believe we need to clear in the manufacturing industry?
To make people understand you're not always going to have to get your hands dirty, that there are jobs within this industry that you can use your mind, you can use your mechanical ability. It's not all about getting your hands dirty. You know, when I started, my mentor made me work at a shop for the first 3 or 4 years. And I was like, what do you mean? I went to college. He was like, I'll tell you what, you're going to thank me 20 years from now. And about 20 years after he did this, I made a phone call and he happened to be at the end of his life. And I said, if it wasn't for you, you know, I probably wouldn't be as successful as I am. And I said, I owe my success to your tutelage and your willing to impart knowledge on me that you could have given to anybody, and you chose me. And I truly appreciate that. Everyone needs someone who gives them guidance. You're going to figure out your own path. Just having an idea of what that path should be, it comes from someone who has the knowledge.
Awesome. Thank you, Larry. So we'll go to Jim at Akuma. What is the final hurdle that we have to clear, or the next hurdle, I shouldn't say final, the next hurdle that we have to clear in the manufacturing industry?
I agree with the human capital side, so I won't go down that path because I agree 100% to that. I think for manufacturing from a technology standpoint is we have been traditionally slow in adoption of technology. You know, it took, when I first came here 15 years ago, people didn't want to integrate robotics and automation. And it took them, if you look at any other industry, discrete manufacturing, they were in automation in the 80s. You know, fast forward to the 2000s, this industry that we're in, the machine tool, didn't really adopt automation until recently and since COVID. So the challenge I think we need to do is how do we accelerate the use of technology, AI, and really get us on the power curve of technology that will attract offshore investment in the United States for manufacturing. Because to me, that's really the essence of how do we keep manufacturing going in the United States is how do we attract the onshoring and offshoring of technology is really going to be critical, along with, you know, they say there's 2.8 million 3.8 million manufacturing jobs in the United States and only 1.8 million people to fill them. You know, so that's what everybody said here. But I think the use of technology will allow us to fill some of that.
Thank you, Jim. So we'll go to Larry at ISCAR to wrap things up today. What is the next hurdle that you believe we have to clear in the manufacturing industry?
Guys, those are all great answers. I think that developing the talent at a much younger age, we've all sat through, you know, like a high school graduation ceremony or, you know, some graduation ceremony at a college or whatever. And there's a great speaker there. That guy has a lot of experience in what he's done and the career path that he's chosen or she. And, you know, it is it's late. You know, I think to actually start earlier and to also to readopt some of these apprenticeship program and the VOTEC programs that we had locally because there's not near as many of those as there was in the past. So, I think getting to people at a younger age and looking at these apprenticeship programs and the mentoring programs to bring some of that back, I believe it really needs to start very, very early in middle school, okay, to talk about the path that you're going to take. Because not everyone's going to be an engineer, not everyone's going to be, uh, a programmer or and I'll just say a salesman, okay, because this has been a good life for me, in the past, 30 plus years with the company. I really enjoyed the machining aspect of it and the programming aspect of it. But also there's a great opportunity in sales to where we need talented people in that business that are in the younger generation. And we're finding those, we're doing a good job at that to, actually bring people in. But to get people to look at this manufacturing industry and this business at a much younger age, I think would really help us. And I think it would help us overcome the hurdles because we need someone to program the robots, we need someone to, to set up that automation. And it's great. And I agree with Jim. We need that automation. And we don't want to go back to the greasy days of manufacturing or anything. I don't think any of us want to go back to those times. But, if you look at that, and I think paramount is the people side of it and having those relationships and the education in place to build that next generation.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you, gentlemen. Before we wrap up today, though, obviously I have asked you all the questions. Are there any questions that you would have for each other before we wrap up today?
There's one gentleman that asked he's 22 years old, engineered unrelated experience to get into manufacturing. I don't know if you saw that or not.
Oh, yeah, we can ask that one. So yes. Yeah, how does a 22-year-old engineer with unrelated experience get into manufacturing?
What my feeling is that in our industry, anybody with an engineering mind, if you have an engineering mind, I can't remember who said it might have been you, Larry. If you've got an engineering mind and you want to understand things, you got a thirst for knowledge from a technical standpoint, from an engineering standpoint, you can be successful in our industry.
Yeah.
I
I
agree.
think, there's a lot of machine builders there. Jim, you're one with Akuma. There's other competitors out there. You're all looking for qualified and talented people. I think it starts with an open house that you attend, that you show an interest, that you go in there, that you talk to an engineering manager, and they will most likely give you an opportunity because we're all looking for service techs, applications people. Everybody has got to start somewhere.
Yep.
And I think that, builders at least have different universities internally in-house where they can put people through on training. But again, um, don't look for the high compensation immediately. You're going to have to get some skin in the game and you're going to have to pay your dues on it. But believe me, you will be satisfied with your career. Looking back 10 years from then, you will be very satisfied with your career because it's honest work. And what it's training you as far as machinery rebuilding or applications, you'll never get it from any other, manufacturer like Akuma or some of the other competitors. They are world class. Um, Europe has apprenticeship programs. We typically there's not a lot of apprenticeship programs within our country, and I think that has to come back around. But it also has to come back to, to high school and to grade school. Look, all of us as parents want to have our kids go to college and want to be better than us. The worst thing that you can have is a son that is in a business for 15 years and hey, they do a reduction and the business goes off to India. Now his career has to start all over. And he looked at me and he said, if I went into manufacturing, if I went into a trade, I wouldn't have to worry about this right now. Okay.
Not for life.
So yes, you do. You have a job for life.
Sure.
You can get set up. There's manufacturers in the Chicago area that are looking for people, but you have to put your dues in. And with basic skills of CAD CAM, basic skills, they have generations of people that are willing to work with you. So my advice is put yourself out there, get ready for some no's, but if it's something that you want to succeed in and pursue, don't stop knocking on the door.
Well said.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
I'll also
sir.
add one other thing real quick here is, I've had the opportunity to talk to a shop owner recently, and he came and he said, "Look, I'm paying these guys really good money for two things: be willing to learn and show up every day." Okay.
Boy, that's the truth.
Look, if you're an engineer in an unrelated field, go to that guy and say, I would like a job, okay, and I will be here every day, and I'm willing to learn anything that you will teach me. You will have a job that day.
Yes.
Buddy.
I
That's
have a
kind of a low
customer.
bar, but
I have a customer in Oklahoma that pays his employees double time for the first 2 hours if they just show up on time. Okay. And they have to do it for a week. And
Yeah.
he doesn't really have to pay out on it because they can never show up on time. So again, what Larry said, you have to show up on time. You have to be dedicated.
yeah, I love
Yeah.
it.
Well,
It's been
gentlemen,
good,
that
guys.
just about wraps things up today. I thank you so much for all of your time today. Big thank you to our sponsors, Akuma America, Iskar, Big Daishawa, and SMW Autoblock. And obviously a massive thank you to Jim King, Michael Herman, Larry Wilfong, and Larry Robbins. Thank you so much for your time today, gentlemen. I had a blast.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much,
very
Stu.
much.
Thanks for
Good
the
to meet you
opportunity.
all.
Nice seeing
Take
you
care.
all.
Thanks very
Yep.
much.
Bye now.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You can listen to all of our episodes of Manufacturing Matters and Lunch and Learn podcast from the MFG Radio Network on Spotify, Apple Music, and on our websites, todaysmedicaldevelopments.com, aerospacemanufacturinganddesign.com, defenseandmunitions.com, and evdesignandmanufacturing.com.